Hello there. It's another interesting edition of Engineering and You, and my name is Tunde Olaniran. I want to welcome you to this week's edition because it's going to be very interesting as usual, very educative and very, very informative. And today we like to, this program is a very, very interactive program where we talk to you and you get to talk to us, and we interact all week long by conversing on various social media platforms that we have available. And last week we had a question that we asked for the week, and the question is the upper part of mammalian trachea is, and it's quite unfortunate that nobody got it. The answer is epiglottis. But today we are going to have another question before I introduce to you who my guest is. And the question for today is, what is the area of hyperbola? What is the area of hyperbola? If you know the answer, please feel free to call us in the course of the program, and you can go ahead to our Facebook page at Ogtv or our YouTube page at Ogtv Abeokuta and drop your answer to that question, and you'll be sure to get your gift. For last week, someone, Zainab from Lagos, got our answer correctly, but we have not gotten in touch with her. Please, Zainab, I know you are watching this. You called last week to get our question right. Please call this number 0703 161 1497. I mean 0703 161 1497. The gift is courtesy Prince Engineer JMC Shillon, FNSE, and just call and we'll get your gifts across to you. I'll take a very short break now. When we return, I will let you know who my guest is. Welcome back. My guest for today is Engineer Surveyor SOGBETUN OLUSEGUN Joseph. He is MNSE. He is a successful structural engineer and surveyor. He has contributed immensely to civil engineering industry by rendering his professionalism and various organizations, private bodies, and impacting his knowledge and experience into junior colleagues and his colleagues. He is married and blessed with children. Engineer Surveyor SOGBETUN. Welcome to Engineering and You.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir. We are looking at building collapse, the engineering perspective. But before we go into that, we have a set of young Nigerians that are watching this program and would like to encourage them into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Now, you are a civil engineer and also a surveyor. How did you come about studying these two and coming out with these two?
Thank you, Mr. Presenter. I had formal education training in both courses, that is civil engineering and surveying. And basically, the two of them are from faculty, because without surveying, there can't be civil engineering. And without civil engineering, hardly can have surveying. So basically, I studied the two programs.
Simultaneously?
Simultaneously.
How did you go about it? How did you start? Did you study the two courses in the same institution?
Well,
or?
It happens as a result of the country where I had my tertiary education. Their system of education is quite different from some other nations, and that is Italy, basically.
Okay.
And if you are with me, you know that Italians are the best civil engineers, architects, and the like in the built environment all over the world. You talk of a lot of great engineers, great surveyors from Italy, and in fact they are the one that first developed surveying equipment.
Okay.
Yes, from history. So that is where I studied, and they have a package for that program. That was why it was very easy for me to have it that way. Then coming out of tertiary institutions, I was exposed to a lot of training where I had my NYSC, and there too I had, they engaged me, they offered me job, and their standard of training is quite okay, and I was exposed to both surveying and civil engineering.
Can you educate us? Is there any difference between a surveyor and a civil engineer? Or do they do the same?
Yeah, there is difference. They are not the same.
What are the differences?
The difference is that the surveyors, they have one thing in common. That is basic science. Anybody studying engineering, you must pass through, study basic sciences that covers all engineering programs. And that is mathematics, physics, technical drawing, which they call this the introduction to technology. But surveyor, in this case, we have various aspects of surveying. We have engineering surveying, we have land surveying, we have hydrographical surveying, we have aerophotogrammetry surveying, and that area of engineering has to do with alignment, route survey, level, contour. Surveyors are trained to that aspect, but engineers also, they are equally trained in that area, but not to the extent of that somebody who really want to study surveying. So from there, hardly you can see, you can't separate the two of them. But when it comes to proper land surveying, then engineer is edged out. You can't compete with surveying.
If somebody has a plot of land, for example,
yeah,
and wants to build a three-story building, who does he need to consult first? A civil engineer or a surveyor?
When you say to construct,
to consult,
the first person will be the surveyor. When you want to have a resilient building, a sound building, the first professional is a surveyor, who will get you the size of the land. And if the land is so terrible in the sense that if it is undulating, slopey, this and that, from one end to the other, the difference in height is enormous, then there's another aspect of surveying which we call topographical survey.
Okay.
So the surveyor will have done that, but most clients, they don't know that they need such services. All they know is that help me to survey my land. How many plots is there? Is it 1 plot or 3 plots or 4 plots? That is all they know. But there are still other aspects. If the land is very undulating, very steep, not having a terrain plane, a level, then you need what we call topographical survey. So that topographical survey, if it is carried out for you, then you will not spend much. You know, in some cases we used to have underground basement in the normal language, underground. So the architect will have seen from the topographical result that if it goes this way, that way, he will utilize that difference in height in such a way that you will like it and you will not spend much. And from there too, there will not be a problem with the structural elements.
Okay.
Because the architect will have known that from one point to the other, there's a certain difference in height, and the engineers, which is a structural engineer, will have planned it all along. But if you don't have all this one, and to worsen the whole scenario, if you don't engage a qualified, competent architect, then there will be a problem.
Okay, we are looking at building collapse and engineering perspective. Now, you agree with me that over the years, like last 2 decades, building collapse has been part of our environment, yeah, so to speak. Now, in your own opinion, there are several things that could cause it. In your own opinion, what are the most prominent causes of building collapse?
Yeah, thank you. The most prominent causes they are quite numerous if we start to enumerate it. But then, let me say this first. For us to have a very sound building, that structure that will stand a good test of time, one has to engage. In the first instance, the client has to know what he wanted. And then he has to express his mind, to competent hands. Competent hands, that is the designer. Then himself and the designer has to follow the rules and regulations, guiding building regulations laid down by the government, being local, state, or federal, whichever it is, or even an estate. So you follow the rules and regulations, you engage the qualified, competent hands, then from there you sought for approval. And from there, we call it a bidding procurement process. So at the end of the approval, having been sorted for, you look for a competent builder that will construct the structure, either a building or a bridge, but naturally a bridge, you see, individual doesn't construct bridge. It's the government, so and government will never make that kind of mistakes. So whatever it is, whatever kind of structure it is, you engage the service of a qualified contractor who will put up that structure and follow all the specifications. And while doing that, the government from their own side has to monitor, to go around and see that the people that they have given approval to, they follow that design to the letter, and ensuring quality standard of production, building production. So if you have, then even after putting up the structure, you have been using it for years, there will be need for maintenance, because the structure must have been exposed to what we call atmospheric condition.
So you need to maintain an existing building.
Yes.
Else it collapses.
Someday you just see it tilting somehow. Erosion is there from the flood. Even harsh weather. There was a time, sometimes, about 6 years ago, Harmattan was peeling wall ties from the wall and even from the floor in this in this country.
Seeing that, you think that maybe the contractor did a substandard job, so to speak?
Yes, one will have ensured that they didn't do a substandard job. But naturally, the nature is there for you. You know, it's very difficult to fight nature. Nature is a force as well. And when we say something is a force, there will be a reaction, and an action and reaction. So nature on its own puts forces on all these things, like when there's rainfall, there's flood, and the flood tries to erode the surrounding soil strata around any building. And before you know, it has caused a lot of havoc to the building. So maintenance also is very important. So now, any of these, within this chain circle, if one of them is not rendering his or her services normally, then collapse, we first of all have failure, and from failure, collapse is imminent.
Okay, there is this, some people say the absence of the building code, Nigerian building code, is the reason why some engineers, architects do a shoddy job on building, which results in collapse.
No. When we say code, we were trained with a lot of codes in tertiary institutions. Here in Nigeria, in all the tertiary institutions, at a certain, let's say level 500, or even as from 400, they were being exposed to code of practice, either Nigerian owned or British standard. So that one guides the designer. But within this code too, if it exists, there will be some penalty for the client. If he does this, this is what will happen. So from that area, if that code doesn't exist, the client will not be liable. But in the case of the professionals, in their relative profession, we have regulatory body. In engineering, we have MNSE, we have COREN. So also in architecture, they have NIOB, and they have Architects Regulation Council. So I won't say it's because there's no code. If we want to say there's no, because of non-availability of code, then that has to do with the area of the code that concern the client, the developer.
Okay, but there is this speculation that someone said the standard of the materials is not like the way they used to be. For example, the quality of the cement that you have maybe 20, 30 years ago is not the same quality that you have today. As a professional, I want to ask you if it's true or not.
That is false. It's not true. It's not true. It's whatever, when you are blowing trumpet, it's what you blow in that comes out. As an engineer or an architect or a bidder, even if you see that this material is not good, you dare not use it. Look for good ones, quality ones, then apply it. You will have good result. So it isn't so. Certain other things that cause this problem is that day in, day out, the whole world is becoming complex. Human being is becoming complex. I want to have a building like a full football pitch, and I don't want columns within. I only want columns in the surrounding. So that is complexity. Very complex indeed. And you want that kind of a thing, you don't want to engage an engineer, or even whereby you engage an engineer, he now specified the material to be used, and you now say it is too expensive. Then what do you expect?
Okay, but are there place of punishment to erring engineers from COREN and from Nigerian Certain Engineer? Are there
punishment? Yes, yes, there is. Before you are confirmed to be an engineer or an architect or whatsoever in the built environment, you must have passed through formal training, BSc. Then thereafter, you go for training for 2 years or 4 years, as the case may be. And while going for training, you must have passed through a lot of process in the sense that various type of jobs, you must have carried them out. You must have been taught by senior colleagues. And from there, you have to go for professional exam. And when you go to sit for this professional exam, you'll be asked a lot of questions. You will write a report, you will bring projects, you tell them what you have done, this and that, before you are accorded that title, an engineer. So, if you now do something detriment to that standard, then one is liable. They will withdraw your certificate. License, we call it registered certificate. They will withdraw it from you, and then that means you cannot practice again. So if you don't want to lose your registration, then you have to be serious and know what you are doing.
Okay, lastly, I would like you to encourage young Nigerians that are watching us.
Yeah, good. Young ones at home, engineering program is a broad program, and it broadens your mind. And basically, engineering solves a lot of problems. We apply engineering to solve a lot of problems. As we are here now, people are watching us at home through televisions and we are talking now with the aid of microphone. So they are being constructed, they are being manufactured, they are being designed by engineers. And even in the health sector, we have biomedical engineering. So engineering is in any settlement, you need the services of an engineer. So I employ younger ones to go into engineering program. And how do they do that? At secondary school, they ensure that they are able to, they study very well in their English language because they should be able to communicate very well outside there. Mathematics, they go for mathematics, sciences, and then basically technical drawing, which they call introduction to technology. From there, if they have their credits at the WAEC level, naturally, if they apply for any engineering program, they will take them, they will give them admission, and successfully, before they know, they become an engineer.
All right, engineering is how life gets better. Without engineering, life is always difficult. On these notes, I would like to draw the curtain, but before I do that, I would like to engage you for the week. And the question for the week is, what is the SI unit of moment? What is the SI unit of moment? Let the conversation continue on Facebook at Ogtv and on YouTube at Ogtv Abeokuta. So this is how we draw the curtain. On behalf of my producer, B-Boy Lori, I'm Tundanyo saying bye for now.